Hey everyone, I'm gonna get started. This is our last class of the semester, well, trimester. I don't know. I'm gonna do this 3 times a year, 3 8-week courses. But you guys did it, and I'm just really proud of everyone who's been attending, and really, really happy about the personal financial counseling sessions that we've had, and everything that's gone on in class, and the level of participation is always really encouraging, and you've just been excellent students. And please feel free, of course, even after the course is over, I hope that everybody will reach out to me if they have questions. And I can't answer everything. I definitely don't know it all, but maybe we can find a solution together. So I'm more than happy to be somebody that you bounce financial ideas off of, or ask questions to, or ask for support in finding the answers to your questions. And I'm here for it. Let's get going. What I'm going to ask is that if you have a response to a question, please put it in the chat, or you can message me directly. So any response that you want to give, keep it in the chat. Or if you're going to unmute yourself to respond, just make sure you're in a quiet place so there's not a lot of background noise. All right, let's get started, guys. Okay, so week 8, crucial documents: wills, trusts, power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, prenups, and life insurance. These are documents that everyone needs to have, because you don't know when you can become incapacitated. And even if you don't have significant assets, you probably have something. You probably have several $1,000s in a savings account, or a car or a truck, or maybe you have equity in a house, or a business. And you want to make sure that these documents are in place so that everything you have doesn't go to the government. That's real. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to ask whoever's in the kitchen, could you please stop what you're doing? Okay, sorry. Having these documents in place is the only way to make sure that everything you have doesn't go to the government, because that's what goes on when you die and you don't have a will, you don't have a trust. You pass on, or you become even incapacitated, not able to access your own funds. The money will just sit there until you pass away, and then it will go back to the government. Or your family will have to launch a lengthy and expensive legal battle. And if you only have a few $1,000s, they're not going to do that. But it's a mess. It's a mess. You want to make sure you have the right stuff in place. All right. So first, at the core of organizing all these documents is selecting a person that you trust most in your life. Who is your person? Because this person is going to have a lot of functions, and they're going to be the executor of your estate. They're going to be your healthcare surrogate. And of course, you can designate different people in these different roles that are required in these documents. But it makes it simpler if you have one person. Usually it's a spouse or a sibling, or a parent. But if you have a parent, if you make your designated person a parent, you should select a possible replacement in case they pass on, or become incapacitated themselves at an earlier time. So usually a trusted sibling can be a best friend, somebody that you really trust to act on your behalf, doing what is best for you and for your family in the way you've declared. So somebody who's going to follow your wishes, even when it goes against what they think or what their opinion is. So please answer in the chat, or if you unmute, please just make sure you have a quiet background. Who is your person? Who is the one that you trust most? Or if you don't have this person yet in your life, you got to select a lawyer. Otherwise, if you're like, I love my family, I want to give to them, but I don't necessarily trust one of them to carry out my wishes. And, you know, the legal document tells them what they're required to do, but it doesn't necessarily guarantee that they're not gonna, you know, if you select someone that you don't completely trust, they could fight over the declarations you've made and the decisions you've made. They could launch a legal battle. They could claim that, I don't know, they could make a lot of problems for you if they, you know, it's like the person you select, it's like you select your wife, is supposed to carry out your wishes, but when it's time, there's a bunch of reasons that she doesn't want to. And so even though she's legally required to, she can still create legal trouble and potentially undo your whole will. So your whole estate planning. Okay, so we've got people responding, you know, you can tell me who this person is, or, you know, just think of the person in your head, but think of this person. And if you're not sure, if you can't pick between, you know, your mom and your dad or something like that, it's cool. Just for the purposes of this lesson, have that person in your head, because they're gonna serve a role in almost all of these documents. So they'll serve as your healthcare surrogate, meaning there's someone who makes medical decisions on your behalf should you become incapacitated. So God forbid, as my dad would say, God forbid something happens and you can't make decisions about your health for yourself. This is the or other decisions about, you know, where you'll live when you are incapacitated, or if you're incapacitated, you know, what happens to your money, you know, while you're incapacitated, who takes care of you, who gets money to take care of you, where you'll go. And that's the job of the healthcare surrogate. This is also a position that's sometimes called a healthcare power of attorney. And but usually they're your healthcare surrogate. Your person will also serve as your power of attorney financially. So your financial power of attorney. Usually when you hear the term power of attorney, it's talking about finance, somebody who controls your money. When you hear the term healthcare power of attorney, that means someone that makes healthcare decisions for you. But these are the typical terms, the most typical terms, I think: healthcare surrogate and power of attorney. Healthcare surrogate relating to health, power of attorney only covering finance. So the person who can make financial decisions on your behalf should you become incapacitated. The moment you die, power of attorney becomes obsolete. This is somebody who can make decisions for you while you're alive. Estate executor is this person after you die. So your power of attorney could be the same person as your estate executor and your healthcare surrogate. For most people, it's usually the same person, again, either a wife or a best friend, a close sibling. So the power of attorney powers are while you're alive, and then when you die, the power of attorney becomes your estate executor, but they're two different documents. That's how most people do it. Or you can have a different person to take over your affairs once you die than someone while you're alive. You know, maybe your sister while you're alive and your husband after you die, whatever it is. Estate executor, a person who can make financial decisions on your behalf after you die. So whoever your person is usually fills all three of these roles, but if you want to assign them to different people for some reason, you can. So has anyone here ever had a loved one's former agency, meaning their personal power, be up for grabs because they had no legally designated person to carry out their wishes when they became incapacitated or died? Does anyone have, you know, a story? And I actually, I reached out to a few students before class and asked them, you know, if they wanted to prepare a statement. And so I have one that I'm going to read. And if you'd like to share yours while I'm sharing her story, go ahead. This is the student in my Tuesday class, and I just thought the story was so poignant. So long story short, her mom did not leave any designated power of attorney or healthcare surrogate. So she goes, my mom did not leave any designated healthcare attorney or financial power of attorney. And when she got sick and could no longer make decisions for herself, my family kept her hanging on even when I knew, and she had expressed many, many times verbally, that she wanted to die if she were ever in the condition that she was in for over 7 years. That's powerful. So her mom clearly said to all of her family, if I am incapacitated, I do not want to be kept on life support, basically. And that is something that you think you could just tell your family and they'll listen to you. But what ended up happening is when she was in that position, most of the members of her family couldn't let her go. They were holding out hope she was going to get better or whatever. And all of this woman's money went to keeping her plugged in for 7 years in basically a vegetative state. So then her daughter was the only one that was insisting, do what mom asked, right? Let her die in peace. But nobody was listening to her and there was nothing they could do about it. So all this woman's savings, her life savings, went to keeping her in a vegetative state for 7 years. So she left her, her kids. It's a mess of a story. I don't know how much my student wants me to share, but that's about all I'll say. You don't want to be in that position, and verbal agreements don't mean anything. Even if you trust your family, if you make your husband promise to pull the plug, if he's not your designated healthcare surrogate, your mom can fight him on it, and they can get into a crazy legal battle that drains all of your savings. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. So you got to make sure you have your living will and or trust to assign an executor and say who gets what when you die. We'll go over the difference between will and trust in a second here. You might need both. Most people need both. Number 2, power of attorney and healthcare surrogate. You need these 3 documents. And a lawyer does not have to create them for you. I'm going to go over resources for how to basically get all 3 for around $200. So let's first look at the difference between a will and a trust. And a trust is also called a revocable living trust, which means while you're alive, you can change your mind. If you're still able to say, I don't want this anymore, I can change it. So revocable living trust versus a will. The key differences is that the will is basically something that is used to pass on property. That's what most people use a will for, to pass on property that is in your name personally. So if you have a house and you want to leave it to your kid, when you do that to transfer the ownership from you to your kid, it goes through a court process called probate. You die, the court reads your will, and they check the validity of the will. They go through a little bit of investigative process to make sure it's legit. The reason it took 2 years for my dad's probate process to end and for me to inherit the place where he lived, 2 years. And I don't know why it took 2 years, what they were verifying, what goes on in that probate process, but it took 2 years. It typically takes 1 to 2 years. So if grandma left you her house and she passes on to a better place, into nothingness, then you're not going to be able to move in next month if you need a place to live. It's as the owner. It's going to take 1 to 2 years for you to be officially declared the owner of her place, even if she left it to you in her will. But that's what it's for. It's for anything that's in your name that you want to pass to someone else after you die. That's primarily what a will does. So probate assets mean assets where the court has to approve the will and what it says after you die. If you put your assets into a trust, it means that you aren't directly owning those assets. So I do not directly own the properties that I have. They are put into a trust. So it's the, Clarity Burke Estate Trust is, I think, the name of it. So this is my trust. I have my properties in the trust so that when I pass on, in my living trust, I can just say, hey, any properties in this trust continue to be in the trust, and the executor will be my kid or my husband or whoever. Right now it's my husband. After I pass, it will be, after I pass, if I have children, presumably it'll be them. So it's kind of a couple ways of doing the same thing. Most people have a will to leave property. If your assets aren't already owned by a trust, then just get a will. And there's another, there's other differences here that you can see pretty clearly. There's a longer list. So differences between will and trust and what they both do. They're all just pretty, they're all pretty technical differences, but essentially the will can do a little bit more with how you see things controlled after you die. So if you really want, let's say you pass on while your kids are still alive, pass on while your kids are still young, excuse me. Pass on while your kids are still young, and you want to appoint guardians for them. You want to say who's going to manage your money and the way that it's spent on your kids in order to take care of them. Specific instructions like that need to be put in a will, which is why some people only have a will and some people only have a trust. But most people sort of need both, because while you're alive, you want to have a document that also represents the protection of your assets. And that's really what a living trust is, because it gives you the opportunity to kind of set up a trust, set up an entity that represents your whole financial life. And then you want to have a will that gives specific directions about what happens in these different odd scenarios. Maybe the way your assets are now or what you have, you don't really need a will and you just need a trust. But again, a trust means that, for you to leave things to someone through a trust, those assets already have to be in the trust. So, and this is usually, property can be owned by a trust. You have a bunch of savings or stocks or whatever that are owned by a trust. This is really where, and then if you pass, the money in your checking and savings account, the properties that are in the trust just get automatically and easily transferred to somebody else. A will is for people that don't have stuff in a trust. It's for people that just own a house, have a checking and savings, and you want to make sure that eventually that stuff gets to the people in your life. So if you are the legal owner, the direct owner, it's just you. It's not a trust ownership with you as the manager of the trust. It's just you, like a normal person, right? Everyone, just you. Then a trust doesn't really make sense for you. If you don't have property in a trust, just get a will, but know that after you pass, there's not going to be this immediate transfer of wealth to your family. They're going to have to wait 1 or 2 years before anything comes through. Does anyone have any questions at this point? Okay. So the question being asked right now is, what is a conservatorship, which is right here. So conservatorship is another word for the executor of your estate. So if you have a trust, you don't need an executor because the trust is its own entity. The trust is like a basket that has all your shit in it, all your money, all your good shit, all your money, all your property in it. And if when you pass, or when you reach a certain age or whatever, all the responsibility, the management, the access to that basket gets passed to someone else automatically. Everything that was held in the trust by you is now held by someone else. With a will, because you have all these specific things, right? All right, this house is going to go to my cousin Ronnie, but only half the house. My cousin Mary gets the bathroom. Or I got 2 kids. I want one of them to get $1 million. I want one of them to only get $1 million if they get off crack. You know, whatever your directions are, you need somebody to oversee that process, and for it to be up to that person, you know, to carry out your will. And it just depends on the way your stuff is owned. That really is and if you have a lot of specific needs that need to be carried out after you pass, a will is really the document to give all those specific directions. Last series of links for the semester are some LegalZoom links. So you don't need a lawyer. All you need is LegalZoom or a similar website. So you can get a will, trust, power of attorney, and healthcare power of attorney / healthcare surrogate for about $200. And if you click that link, you will see that there's a bundle. You can start with one document or another. Healthcare power of attorney starts at $39. Healthcare power of attorney, again, just means healthcare surrogate. Last will and testament. Living will with a healthcare directive, which is, again, different than a living trust. It's just a will that it's active while you're alive because it includes a healthcare directive. So that's sort of like a healthcare power of attorney and a will in one to help you save a little money. Financial power of attorney, living trust, and the last will and testament, which is just known as the will. So you can bundle and get 3 documents for $179 and then add 1 more on. Filling these out is really easy. They ask you really straightforward questions. And by the end, you have a document that you just need to get notarized and signed by a witness in front of the notary, and you're good. No need for a lawyer. No need for that. No need for that. So the second sort of category of document that I want to cover is life insurance. If you do not have significant assets to leave to your family, getting a life insurance policy is an especially great option. If you do have significant assets, they'll be taken care of after you pass. I would recommend it for everyone. My tip in filling out the or selecting a life insurance policy is don't admit to anything that isn't documented. So they'll ask you questions like, do you have depression? You know, things like that. And unless that can be proven in a court somehow, which it probably can't be, just say no. Say no to any question that you feel like is going to just increase your policy. And if it would be impossible for the insurance company to prove, which it would be impossible for them to prove that you have depression, if that's something I do. So I have a medical history of it, but that medical history is confidential. So let's get into this real quick. The Policy Genius life insurance system. This is a great way to get a quote on any kind of insurance in general. Let me just make sure that I am still, let's see. Oh, sorry guys, 1 sec. Let me see, make sure you guys can see this. All right, here we are. So this is the Policy Genius website. In this case, we're going to select life insurance. Enter your zip code. Get started. And then they ask you a series of questions. So I just wanted to get you, get it set up for you, show you the beginning process. But I got quoted about $20 a month for a $1 million life insurance policy. And that's with some pre-existing medical conditions I have that are documented and can be proven. But for most people, it would probably be less. There's places where you can get $1 million life insurance policy for $10 a month, $15 a month if you are a healthy person. It's a very good idea to buy health insurance, or to buy life insurance while you have a lot of life left to live, while you're healthy, while you're young, because the price is just going to go up as you get older and health conditions are added to your medical records. If you have health insurance and you have a condition documented through your health insurance, like you get medication for diabetes or whatever it is, a life insurance policy can find that out. So they'll know about any documented medical conditions you have that are documented by the insurance system that pays for any medications you take or surgeries you might have had for this condition. So be honest about anything that can be proven. Things that cannot be proven, just, have you ever thought about suicide? If the answer is yes, just say no. Just say no, because that's not the purpose of this. They usually take several months to go into effect, but it's $10, $15 a month to give your family $1 million payout when you die. That's definitely worth it, even if you do have significant assets. The prenup. So the prenup is something that I know causes a lot of strife in engagements. Fortunately, my husband was just like, yeah, of course, whatever you want. He just wanted to marry me. He's like, prenup, honey, you got it, whatever. But don't expect the other person to take it well, because the suggestion is there could potentially somehow be a reason in the future that we would get divorced. Most people that get married do not think they're ever going to get divorced. So just in case you're part of that, I don't know, whatever it is, 40% of marriages that end in divorce, it's a very, very good idea to have a prenuptial agreement, which, as the name says, prenup, before nuptials. Before nuptials is the marriage, the vows. So before the nuptials, before the marriage, you have to sign the prenuptial agreement. And if you guys get a divorce, the document divides up your assets and makes sure they don't get any more of your assets than you want them to get. You don't want them to get anything. The prenup prevents them. But once you're married, there is no prenup. Once you're married, you can't just sign a prenup afterwards. And it's a process that takes about a month. So if you're getting married, make sure you sign your prenup. Make sure you get the prenup process started at least a few months before you plan to get married. The easiest way to make one for free that I've found is on Rocket Lawyer. And you can make the prenuptial agreement for whatever state that you're in and generate the document. So it's an ugly truth, and I don't think it dooms your relationship. If anything, if you're somebody that has significantly more assets than the person you're marrying, it helps you to know that they're not marrying you for your money. So look at it that way. Look at it that way. I have a link here that's got more info about exactly what prenups are and what they do. But essentially, it's just you saying that what you want your spouse to have or not have in case they are not your spouse no more. Any questions about prenups? Okay, that's a really good question. Thank you. What happens to your assets if your prenup says they get nothing, but you have them in your will and trust? So that's a really good question. If you have a prenup that says they get nothing if you're divorced, if you divorce, it makes whatever you left them null and void in the will, as long as the will is or the prenup is very clear about that. So just make sure, you know, if you got your soon-to-be husband or wife or soon-to-be person you're married to in your will and or trust, but the prenup that you sign says if you get divorced, they're out of the will and trust, then the prenup will supersede the will and trust. But the prenup has to be clear about that. And you should probably also specify in your will and trust that this person only gets those things as long as you're still married, you know, at the time when the will or the trust is set to kick in. Does that make sense? Okay. So I would like everybody to think about this, and if you have the answer now, give it to me now. If not, I would ask that you please email me and let me know. Since this is our last week, which new topics would you like to see covered next semester? And are there any topics you want to learn more about? So I'm going to, I'm thinking about a couple different things. I am going to repeat what you guys have learned next semester, maybe with some slight updates and changes. But I also want to create a second part to this 8-week series where we go either a little bit more in depth to the topics that people are interested in, or cover new topics. And I would like my students from this semester to be the ones that help inform my decisions about what would go into that Part 2 curriculum. And the Part 2 curriculum and the Part 2 classes of the second series, you could be a new student and just watch the videos and catch up with it. So I was thinking about doing just a more in-depth continuation of most of the same topics and covering a couple new things that you might be interested in. So please inform me about what you want to see in Part 2. Any topics you want to learn more. So people are saying that they want to learn more about stocks, ETFs, real estate investment trusts. Okay, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, more about budgeting. Okay, what more tips and tricks for how to save? Absolutely.
Mortgage.
Okay. What, John?
Mortgage. Purchasing a home.
Good idea. That whole nasty process, how that whole thing works, what to expect. I love it. I love it. Those were topics I was considering getting more into, except for budgeting, actually. So it's a good thing, Natalie, that you told us. Right, mortgages. Let's see. I have some of my younger class members have asked for more information on how to choose the right car. Buy a car, make sure your car doesn't ruin your life, kind of thing, which it has for a lot of people. It just drains your money and then craps out on you. So car selection is not something I know a whole bunch about, but the financial process of getting a good deal on a car, what to look for, what to say, I will tap in my stepdad, who is like the car deal genius, and get his advice. But we'll definitely get more into budgeting. We'll get more into stocks. We'll get into mortgages, how to apply, what a good deal looks like, how to read a contract. Very cool. Very cool. So whatever you guys want is what I will teach you. So if you think of other things later, please let me know, and I will include it. I won't leave anything out that's important to you, because my students always inform my curriculum. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. Well, it's been just an absolutely fantastic time teaching this course, and I'm very excited to get started writing the next 8-week series. It's gonna premiere. I want to start the next series after the holidays. So I think early February, give you guys January to sort of figure things out. And then come February, maybe early February, even late January, getting started. So thanks, It's Been Lit, for being here with me in these 8 weeks. I appreciate you so much. And make sure you keep my email close by in your contacts, clarity@itsfinlit.org, and you let me know if you'd like a one-on-one financial counseling session, or if I can just assist you with the research that we both need to do to find the answer to your question. Anything you need, you just let me know. And I'm going to be asking students for additional feedback as well to inform the next 8-week curriculum that I'm writing. A continuation of everything we've learned and updates based on what you want to know. And then we're starting a whole new It's FinLit semester as well. So if you would like to recommend this course to someone who isn't really thrilled about the idea of just watching YouTube videos and wants to participate in a class the way you did, I am going to be teaching the same stuff again for a whole new class of people. And recording that semester as well, because we get better every time. Guys, thank you for everything. If you need anything, let me know. I'm here, and I'll keep everybody posted from our Instagram and our website about when the next semester or the next trimester is going to start exactly, if it's going to be late January or early February, what the times will be. I'm probably going to do more afternoon classes because that time seems to be better for more people. So the Tuesday time might change. Sunday 3 p.m. I'm still going to keep at the same time. But the Tuesday class might be a little later in the day to help accommodate more people's schedules. I haven't decided yet. Anyway, love you guys. Very, very proud. Please be proud of yourselves for attending and for just being hungry for this knowledge. You are on the right path, and getting started is the hardest part, and you're already there. So you're already on your way. You're already on your way, and I'm with you on that journey. Bye, everybody.